Glenn, you ain't break up with her. You went back to her.
Yes, he did.
Glenn, what was the point of finding out if you was just gonna go back anyway?
No. Now, if we had all our boys here, he'd know he couldn't say that one.
Glenn, you look guilty. I'm
Much
be honest
later
with you.
down the line.
You
Yes,
look it
sir.
up while you talking, Glenn. So okay, but this it is. It's like a gift and a curse, right? Because even if let's say you meet a chick, right, or you decide that, I want to have a girlfriend or I'm getting serious about this chick, can you even tell her, you know what I'm saying, what you do or?
No, I didn't do that. I did have one girlfriend at the time. She was aware because I was facing 30 to 60 years. And, I asked her, I don't think you want to do this type of time. And, she cried and she told me, no, I can't do it. So, I appreciated her honesty. Me and her still cool to this day.
So how long was your run, right? From the time that you started to immerse yourself in his life? Because you still DJing, like back then, like at the time.
Yeah, that was part of my cover.
You still DJing? Mm-hmm. Did you go buy any cars? Did you go and like live it up?
No,
or
luckily,
did you just stand low?
Luckily, I was grounded, like I said, from my black nationalist background, and also from associating from different ethnic individuals.
Yeah.
The proper way to move, and I knew that my boys, they was brand new cars. Remember the Sebring was big shit back in the day.
Yeah, the Chrysler Sebring.
Yeah, they was buying Sebrings and Yukons and Tahoes and BMWs. I was driving around in the '96 Dodge Spirit.
It sounds like your boys probably are the ones that got you busted. I'm not sure what the story is yet, but it sounds like.
I paid for the information and found out who snitched on me.
So it was one of your homies that snitched on you.
Of course, that's how it goes.
Of course. All right, so let me back up for a minute. So you live in. It sounded like you had a decent sized run from the time that you really got started, or the time where you starting to learn, what this is or whatever, and immersing yourself in a lifestyle, to the time eventually where you get caught. How long is that run?
About 3.5, 4 years.
And you ran up the check on that one.
Yes, sir. Multiple.
All right. Well, I'm not gonna talk about the check. I'm gonna leave the check alone.
Oh, we can discuss. It's cool.
You sure?
Yes, sir.
How much you think you made when that 3.5 year run?
Okay, that's a crazy story. So, for anybody that's familiar with the feds, there's federal guidelines. The more you make, the more time you get.
Yep.
And they was trying to determine approximately how much did I make within a certain period, because in my computer there was a DAT file and it basically listed some of the phones that I was cloning. But at the same time, my equipment got stolen. This is by the same person who snitched on me, which I later found out. And the feds gave a number, which added more time. And I was like, oh, no, I can't do that. So my attorney asked me, well, how much do you think you made during that period? With that in a year time period, I'm thinking I'm being smart. I'm saying at least about a third of what I'm making. But when I gave him the numbers, a third of what I thought I was saying, I was
more
still
than
making.
what they anticipated.
Yeah, he didn't report back to them. When he did the math, he said, Malik, you're making $750,000 a year. And now remember, I'm giving him a third of what I'm thinking I'm making.
Yeah.
So I know I made way more than $1 million easily. But I lived up that money for a long time also after my case.
They let you keep it?
No, they stole it. But I had money hidden in the walls of my mother's house.
Oh, okay.
I had books that I would cut out and
You sure you don't want me to cut this part out?
no, you have to cut it out. Oh, that money has been burnt through.
Yeah, but I don't want that to come back to you.
No.
In no way.
No.
You sure?
Yeah.
Man, you might want to check.
I've already done my research with them.
All right. I just got to be sure because I don't want.
Yeah. They took the money that they had, but I was hiding money for such a period of time that I literally, for like 2-3 years, I was constantly finding money because I couldn't remember where I put it all at.
You had made so much money and you was stashing the money that you couldn't even remember where you kept the money.
Correct.
That's crazy. And this is 90s money.
Yeah, so it was good.
And
But
if
like
you
I said, I
account
had
for
to live off
inflation,
that.
You account for inflation, $750,000 back then was actually way more than $750,000 right now. You know what I'm saying? We in 2023. You talking about in the 90s. All right, so you out here, you chilling, you partying, you clubbing, all of this, you DJing and everything. That's a part of your cover. How do you find out that you got the feds on you?
Well, the case was called Operation Cybertr0n. And the guy who taught me, he got caught up in Operation Cybertr0n.
Okay.
He was the administrator of the site. I was the co-administrator of the site.
Okay.
So they already had an idea of who I was, but not exactly. And of course, they thought I was a white guy. Nobody knew Cybertr0n was a black guy. Even when I would first meet the white guys back in the day, I remember the first time I met some of the guys, we met at a Coney Island in Dearborn, and I walked up to the table and told them what I had on, and I was like, yo, what's up? And the white guys, they just looked at me like, yeah, what's up? They go back to talking.
Yeah.
I'm like, dude, I'm Cybertr0n. And they all look at each other like, seriously? So, you know, I have
all
a
of them,
tattoo.
you was the
and
only
I showed
person
them the
that was black in the group?
Correct.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. So he got caught up, and then what happened?
When he got caught up, my confidential informant, he later got caught up on some credit cards, and he snitched on me. By this time, I already had a mole in the feds. I paid $750 to find out who the confidential informant was, and he told me his real name. And because I know my source had no way of knowing this guy's street name or real name, I knew that the information was correct.
You did?
And then later on, when I was in the halfway house, I happened to get locked up with his bunkie. And his bunkie was talking about how he snitched on this guy. He the one who started burning out cell phones, and he snitched on him because his grandmother said, you tell on somebody, we got to get you up out of this, blah, 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 blah. And
so the guy just motor mouthing in the halfway house.
Yeah.
Man, that's
No, he was
crazy.
motor mouthing in the Fed joint. I ended up being locked up in the halfway house.
Well, no, the
with his
halfway
bunkie.
house guys talking about the stuff that he heard in the feds.
His
What
bunkie was that he was locked up with.
Yeah.
He's telling me that me and him was cool. He was actually a Muslim brother, and he was like, you know what? I was locked up with this guy from Detroit, and he talked about this guy who did computers. And you said you in here on cell phones? I was like, yeah. He named a couple of more things. And as he named these few things, my face was getting intense.
Yeah, you couldn't hide the...
And he was like, that was you? I was like, yes, sir. He was like, oh, man. So, you know, we had to go to the back of the halfway house and have a nice little talk.
Yeah.
And then I learned everything else because he was a guy that wasn't too liked in the Fed joint because he would always whine and complain to the feds talking about he wanted to go home. And anybody who know when you locked up, you don't be on no phones whining and crying about you want to go home.
Yeah.
That's the fastest way to get cracked upside the head.
Is it? Why is that?
Because you got guys who doing 10, 20, 30 years.
Yeah.
You're only doing 2 or 3 years, and you talk about you want to go home?
Yeah.